Welcome back and thank you for staying with us on The Conversation. Now, INEC, that's Nigeria's Electoral Commission, has proposed replacing PVCs as the sole voter accreditation method. Computer-generated slips or downloads from the INEC website should suffice. Now, by doing so, INEC aims to improve the electoral system by addressing 142 recommendations from recent elections. Now, the question people are asking is, will these reforms enhance the integrity and efficiency of Nigeria's electoral process? Now, let's find out. Joining us this evening, we have Rotimi Oyekanmi, his Chief Press Secretary to INEC Chairman. Thank you so much, Rotimi, for joining us at this time.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
All right, now let's start with the basic. Can you explain to us why exactly is INEC proposing this review?
Thank you very much. It has become the Commission's tradition to review every general election, and we have been doing this since 2011. The idea is that, general elections are conducted every 4 years. You have the presidential, the national election and the state elections. And after all that, it's only pertinent for us to review the process. And we carry out these reviews by first talking to our officers, that's internal review. And then when we conclude, we invite the external stakeholders to come and tell us what they found on the field, where we did well, where we didn't do well, what they think we should do to improve, and all of that. And so after 2023, we conducted about 11 review meetings across the country. We invited our electoral officers, all the ad hoc staff, some of the ad hoc staff that we used, including the returning officers, and had a conversation with them, frank discussion about what happened on the field. When we concluded, we now moved to the external stakeholders, like the media, for instance, civil society, political parties, and security agencies. Let them tell us exactly what happened, what they found, and where we can improve. Now, all the recommendations harvested from all the review meetings make up the 142 recommendations that you spoke about. Now, out of these 142 recommendations, 86 require administrative action by INEC, and 48 require action by various stakeholders, National Assembly, security agencies, and all that. And then 8 others require legislative action. Now, I heard you talk about PVCs. Yeah. You know that INEC's actions are guided by law. And there are certain things that we may propose, but we need the cooperation of the National Assembly to effect a change in the electoral laws to be able to achieve that. For instance, as we speak, the law requires that every voter must produce permanent voters cards at a polling unit as a form of identification. And that PVC will also be used for accreditation. Now, with the introduction of the bimodal voter accreditation system, which has the full details of the voters, including the 10 fingerprints, we feel that it is no longer mandatory for voters to come up to be required to produce the PVCs, but it's still at the recommendation stage. We are going to recommend this when we brief the National Assembly very soon, as the Commission said, when we had the meeting.
All right, and I will speak more on legislation later. But, you talked about, recommendations and some of the meetings that you had after the 2023 general elections. Now, we know that, during the elections, there were reports that indicated significant challenges with PVC distribution and collection, which actually led to voter frustration and disenfranchisement as well. But, how does this new proposal address these concerns, especially, for those in remote or underserved areas?
Well, point of correction, many people actually collected their PVCs before general election. Over 90% had access to their PVCs. Remember, it is not just for 2023 that we are talking. People have been collecting their PVCs. Those who had to now collect their new PVCs were those that participated in the continuous voter registration in 2021 and all of that. Now, the advantage of not having PVC as requirement is that, you know, for instance, people who are in the habit of buying up PVCs and disenfranchising voters will not have any business to do anymore. And then the fact that the BVAS now has all the details of the voter, including your facials, the fingerprints, and all the data that is required, you can just, you know, depending on what the law is eventually amended to read, bring any form of ID or a slip. You can download that slip, for instance, from our website and just present yourself at the polling unit where you register. And once that is done, your fingerprints will now be used to, you know, accredit you with your facial. And if you are, of course, a registered voter and you are registered at that polling unit, you will be able, the BVAS will call up your details and you will be able to vote.
All right, now let's talk about, you know, the systems, since it's going to be digital and more technological. We know that digital systems are prone to cyber threats. What security measures, you know, are put in place or should be put in place to ensure that, you know, these computer-generated slips do not become vulnerable to fraud or manipulation?
Well, there is no system that cannot be abused. And you really made a very good point at that especially in a country like Nigeria where familiar forces are fond of trying new tricks to sabotage the system. But the good thing is that the BVAS is there. You know, we have polling units, and on day of election, each polling unit will have its own BVAS. The BVAS will have the number of registered voters in that polling unit. Therefore, if you go to that polling unit and you bring a slip, if you are not a registered voter at that polling unit, your details will not come out. And the presiding officer will just tell you politely that you cannot vote there because your name is not on the register. That's the thing. So if you produce something that is fake and you present yourself at the polling unit, accreditation, first of all, your details will not come out. But if you think you can bypass that system, because fingerprint and facials are so unique to you, it will be difficult for you to bypass that. So we are confident that with all the other measures that INEC will propose, whoever tries to get to the back end to do something funny will end up where, you know, he or she doesn't expect to end up.
All right, Rotimi, now earlier I actually asked about, you know, some of the concerns, you know, that remote and underserved areas actually face. Now, let's talk about the digital divide between the urban and the rural areas. How do you plan to address, you know, this digital divide and also ensure that voters without internet access or even the necessary devices, you know, can still download their accreditation slips?
No. You know, it's just at the proposal stage. We are saying that in addition to other forms of, now, let me make this clear. The idea is that with any form of ID, as may be prescribed by law, you should be able to go to the polling unit and produce an ID to say this is you. It could be driver's license, it could be international passport, it could even be your work ID, right? And it could be the slip that you generated. So it is not going to be specific. What we are saying is that now we have all your details. We have your biometrics, we have your facials. So on day of election, make yourself available and just produce any ID. It could even be ID by NIMS, your NIN and all of that. So you produce that, and then we can call up your details, you know. And once your details comes up, and once you pass the accreditation test, then you're able to vote. So it's not going to be specific to just slip. Downloading a slip is just like an emergency measure that, okay, I don't have any form of ID, so what do I do? You can go online and download the slip. As long as it is you, then you make the slip available. And like I said, this is still at the proposal stage. We have not decided, we don't have the power to make that decision. It still has to go to the National Assembly, and the law still has to be amended for that to happen.
Yeah, but it sounds like a good enough plan, and if everything goes on well, I'm sure you've already made you've already made plans for what would happen, and like you've actually weighed the pros and the cons of what might actually happen when it comes to fruition. So this is the reason why I actually want to ask about how you will be able, or you will be able to monitor and ensure compliance, especially by political parties and their agents during the accreditation process. I'm sure you've already weighed the pros and cons and what might likely happen when it comes to play.
Well, voting process on election day. A voter goes to the polling unit. At that point, nobody is preaching to him. Nobody is campaigning to him. He has already made up his mind who he wants to vote for. So he goes to the polling unit, put forward his accepted, if a computer-generated slip, and then the presiding officer brings the beavers up and keys in the details. And once the details match the one that they match the individual that is standing in front of him, and that person is able to scale through the accreditation process, is allowed to vote. So it has nothing to do with, it doesn't require any interference. Like you said, the infrastructure is already there. The beavers is there. The register of voter is already online. And we have all the details, including 10 fingerprints of all registered voters. So it's already a facility that is existing. What we are saying is that with this facility, PVC now becomes like an ancillary rather than a compulsory thing. And of course, it will save costs because, you talked about the challenges of people who haven't collected their PVC. No, there will be no need for us to say, come to INEC office to collect your PVC between this day and this day. You understand? So it becomes flawless. So more people will be able to turn up to vote. Nobody will now say, oh, because I don't have my PVC, I cannot vote. Now you can go, if the proposal is accepted, you can go to the polling unit and make any ID available. And if it's your polling unit, you are accredited, and then you're able to vote.
All right, Rotimi, now you talked about 142 recommendations. Can you elaborate on how these specific recommendations that were identified in your review of the 2023 elections will be incorporated into the new system? And I'm talking about those particularly related to voter management and election security.
Well, obviously, I can't go through all the recommendations there because we had 15 thematic areas. And under these 15 thematic areas, people made recommendations on everyone. For instance, we have voter education and publicity. We have electoral security. We have media management. We have a party, political party, and all of that. So under each of these thematic areas, people discuss the pros and cons. For instance, we have logistics. How did we do in logistics? How many polling units opened at the time we said it will open? Where they did not open, what happened? And were the voting materials available? And how were the voters attended to? The persons living with disability, what happened? Were they attended to the way they should be attended to, and all of that? And then our voter awareness, how strong or otherwise were the voter education activities that we carried out? Were people well informed? Do people know what they will do when they get to the polling unit? What are the things we need to do to make people understand what to expect, or how they are going to conduct themselves, how to vote properly so that their votes are not voided, to make sure that the thumbprint are in the right box and all of that? How do voters identify the acronyms and the logos of the political party they need to vote for? And when they vote, what are they expected to do, and all that? Issues around vote buying, issues around electoral violence, and so on and so forth. So all these recommendations have been divided, and we now discovered that we have 86 that we can implement on our own. Now, let me give you an example of one of the recommendations that we implemented in the past. In 2015, during the 2015 general elections, voters were required to come and accredit themselves, go back home, and then come back and vote. Okay? So when we reviewed that election, stakeholders said that discouraged a lot of people because by the time people accredited themselves, went home, and came back, they were discouraged because of the crowd. So we lost some people who were accredited, but because of the crowd and the confusion at the polling units, they couldn't vote. So for 2019, we adopted, accreditation and voting at the same time. We call it simultaneous accreditation and voting. So you are accredited and then you are voting immediately. And that really helped to solve that problem, And then the issue of the smart card reader and the issue of incident form, because some people were cheating, when you say smart card reader cannot accredit your fingerprint, they will ask for incident form. When we genuinely provided incident form to address a genuine problem, some familiar forces that I like to call them abuse that process. That was what led to the introduction of the beavers. Then we will use your facial, not you, because definitely nobody can forget his face at all when coming to vote on election day. So those are the we harvested all the recommendations in various forms in that manner.
Okay, Rotimi, you seem to have everything planned out. But can you tell us in INEC's projection, what is the timeline for the full rollout of the computer-generated slips, and what stages of testing and piloting will be conducted before the 2027 general elections?
Look, if you have a computer in front of you, a laptop, and you go to the INEC website, right? If you know your date of birth and your surname, and you go to the portal of the register of voters, and you key it in, your details will come out. That's what we are saying. Details will come out and you just print that out and you can take that to the polling unit.
So what I'm asking is it likely to be ready by 2027?
That's what I'm saying, that if it's not even being ready or not being ready, these are things that are really existing. We just need to harmonize one or two things. For instance, if we want to enable production of slips, it's just adding one or two buttons to be able to do that, because all other details, the infrastructure and everything we need already exist. We have the register of voters on, we have a portal. The details of all our voters are there with all the protocols, right? The beavers machine that will identify you is in existence. Now, when and if the National Assembly approves the recommendation we are planning to put forward to say, yes, voters don't need PVCs, and the law is amended to reflect that, then all we need to do is to add the button to say, for everybody, print identification slip. And then you click on that button and it prints out your identification slip. Another thing we can do to ensure that nobody can print anybody's is to probably have a security measure to send you a particular code. And that code cannot be repeated. For instance, if your name is Adewale Adebanjo and you click in, there is a computer generator code that goes to the phone line that you registered with, or your email that you registered with. And it is with that you'll be able to print that slip. And once it is done, nobody can go to that place again. So those are the kind of security measures we can take to ensure that people don't abuse the process.
Okay. Now, can you tell us what impact, we expect this to change, or this change to have, when it comes to voter turnout? We know that when it comes to some specific regions, PVC collection has historically been problematic.
Well, voter turnout has been attributed to a lot of factors. All over the world, actually, there has been this trend of low voter turnout. It's not just in Nigeria, but with specific reference to Nigeria, there are various factors. we are trying to simplify the process of voting so that people will be able to vote. It's not just jettisoning the permanent voters card that we are talking about. For instance, people like us, I'm an INEC staff, for instance, and I cannot vote on election day for one reason or the other. One of the problem areas is that the law says you can only vote where you register. Now, you are a media person. During the general election, you may be deployed from Abuja or from Lagos, where you register, to Sokoto or anything like that, any state like that. It means that you will not be able to vote in that place, but you have a right to vote. So is there a way we can create an opportunity for you? So part of the recommendation is also that there should be early voting. We should make provision for security agents that are deployed, journalists that are deployed, even INEC staff, essential staff. You know, even the presiding officers, the ad hoc staff, they also have a right to vote. And if you look at the number, it's in the millions. You can have about 2 to 3 million votes. Imagine 2 to 3 million additional voters casting their ballot. It will influence the election one way or the other. And then we are also talking of diaspora voting. People are, you know, advocating for that. And we're also saying this is something that should be considered. Let the National Assembly look at the law, look at the architecture of what we have now, and what can be done to improve it, and then provide opportunity for people living abroad to vote in such a way that it will not be abused. So it's a whole range of factors. If we're able to connect the dots on all these areas, then I'm confident that the number of those willing to vote will rise. Nigerians are willing to vote, but sometimes the law is a factor. Collection of PVC sometimes is a factor, but it's not just one thing that is preventing Nigerians to vote on election day.
Okay, Mr. Oyekanmi, now we'll have to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll definitely continue with this discussion. Please stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us on the conversation. Now, if you just joined us, we're talking about electoral reforms and how INEC has actually proposed replacing PVCs as sole voter accreditation methods, and has insisted, you know, on computer-generated slips or even downloads from INEC website. And we've been talking to Rotimi Oyekanmi, Chief Press Secretary to INEC Chairman, and I'm told that we have Dr. Peter Michael Piper joining us. He's a public affairs analyst at this time. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Michael Piper.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, I'm not sure if you listened to our conversation with Mr. Oyekanmi, but if you did, can you give us an idea or your thoughts on the computer-generated slips that INEC is actually working on right now?
Well, thank you very much. I listened to some part of your conversation with Oyekanmi. Well, I'm a Nigerian, and I would like to let you know that to most Nigerians, we have very little confidence on INEC. When we're talking about a democracy, it's supposed to be a government of the people, an opportunity where the citizens of a country can choose who they want to govern them. But we have a situation here where the INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, has lost its independence. In spite of everything this gentleman has been saying on television here, I can tell you that 99% of your audience will obviously disregard everything the man is saying. We knew how optimistic Nigerians were in 2023 when we heard about IREV, the electoral laws at that time. Nigerians were excited about it. A lot of people came out to vote. They expected transparency, and we knew it's common knowledge what INEC did at that time. So Nigerians have very little respect and regard for INEC. because when it comes to integrity, I think after the 2023 election, INEC lost its moral ground, you know, to conduct free and fair elections. So everything that man has just been saying is governmental mainstream rhetoric. So he is just saying what his paymasters want him to say. The man is a PR person. He's just reading out a script. He's playing out his part. But let me say this, 2027 is going to be a different game, ball game entirely. Nigerians will not accept, they will certainly and definitely not accept the deception that INEC participated in. In fact, that INEC conducted in 2023. All this talk that this man has been making on television, he's preaching to the choir. So we Nigerians have come to believe that INEC is an arm of the ruling party. That is the impression Nigerians have right now, that INEC is a part of the ruling party. So when we're talking about electoral reform, it's not in the line of most of what this man is saying. They're about to play on your intelligence again, my dear Nigerians, and this is time, and this calls for vigilance. So when we talk about electoral reform, the National Assembly already has a bill in the House of Reps, and this bill is on the second reading. And this bill is specific on monitoring, because the last election, you know, they would have had it. They would have found it very difficult to rig the last election if certain things were put in place. And these are the things that the National Assembly is already trying to put in place. What we're asking for right now is independent election monitors. So what we're talking about now is not just INEC. INEC, if you observed the American election, even before the results were declared, before the winners were declared, we all knew what was going to happen. Because CNN, BBC, ABC, Fox News, and almost all the news media in the world projected the figures. How did they get those projections? They got those projections through independent means. So this is what we are asking for in Nigeria. We don't trust INEC. INEC is a part of the ruling party. INEC is culpable in this. So everything this man has been saying is all it's all a smoke screen. They want to repeat the same thing they did in 2023. But Nigerians are smarter now. What we are asking for is independent monitors. Monitors, but people that will monitor the election at the units and will tell us the results from every unit, so that even News Central will be able to project the figures. NTA will be able to project the figures. Arise channels, all the independent television and radio stations will be able to give us projections of what has happened in all the polling units, while we now wait for INEC to give us the results. So in this situation, if INEC repeats what they did in 2023 by giving us a fake result, then if you say, oh, if you don't like the results, go to court. Hey, boy, we will be excited to go to court this time, because when we go to court, we will be able to now say, well, let's look at the portals of all independent election monitors, all those who observed it, and let's make a comparison between what these people have reported and what INEC is reporting. So that's my take on it, my dear.
All right, now let's, it seems Mr. Oyekanmi had something to say. Mr. Oyekanmi, what do you have to say about, you know, everything that Dr. Michael Piper has actually said? He talked about, you know, INEC losing its independence and the citizens losing their confidence.
Hello, I don't know if
INEC.
you can still hear me. I think I've lost, I can't hear from
Can you
here
hear
anymore.
me? I'm speaking to Mr. Oyekanmi. Mr. Oyekanmi, can you hear me?
Yeah. So,
So he also talked about Nigerians losing their confidence in INEC and whatever ideas INEC, is bringing to the fore.
Well, the first thing I would like to say is that we have not lost our independence. And it is absolutely not true that INEC rigs election. What I have found personally is that Nigerians are quite emotional about election. And just like some political parties behave, when they don't win, when the person they support or the political party they support does not win an election, then the election is flawed. The only time INEC is praised is when the party and candidate they support win the election. And that's the point, really, that we need to really examine. How is it that a commission that invented IREF was not there before. In 2015 general election, there was no IREF, right? In 2019 general election, there was no IREF, right? So we invented IREF. And why did we invent IREF? Because we wanted to give Nigerians the opportunity to have a glimpse at the result management process.
But that same IREF had an issue during the elections as well. And I think that was the first point of call for Nigerians losing, confidence in INEC.
That's the point, my dear, because even in connecting to this Zoom, I had glitches at first. When you take your phone, sometimes you try to make a call, you have glitches. So glitches occur all the time. What happened to IREF on election day was a glitch that took some time to resolve. And when the thing was resolved, the same results were posted there. But let me even tell you something interesting. The law made it clear on how results should be declared. What the gentleman is saying is already in practice. Results are actually declared at the polling units. That's the truth. The presiding officer is expected at the close of poll to sort the ballot, to count the ballot, and declare results. And another interesting thing, political parties are required to have their agents at the polling units, okay, so that you will see what is going on at the polling units. So it is the result already declared at the polling unit that the beavers is used to snap that is now uploaded to the IREF.
But there were inconsistencies in some of the numbers on that day.
No, I'm coming. I'm just explaining the process to you. Now, we are not saying that the election was perfect. There is no perfect election anywhere. But if you interrogate the 2016 general election, you will discover that several results were cancelled as long as those results did not meet the threshold. For instance, our law says that if there is overvoting, if there's a polling unit where you have 500 voters and you are seeing results that are saying 700 people voted, that's a clear case of overvoting. The result is going to be cancelled. And after all the cleanup, we then proceed to declare the result. And there's what we call substantial compliance. Okay, when you comply substantially with the law, then you're able to make a declaration. And the law also states the conditions under which you cannot make a declaration. But you see, the social media was part of the problem because people were paying attention to some of the narratives on social media. Oh, this election was rigged somewhere. And if you look at the result of the 2020 general election, the National Assembly that we are talking about today is a rainbow. It has never happened in the history of this country that you will not have just the ruling party and the opposition occupying all the seats of the National Assembly, So it was a rainbow. You had even parties that were never given any chance that were part of the National Assembly by virtue of winning their election and all that. Senators were defeated in their stronghold. Even in the presidential election, the party that was believed to have a stronghold in Lagos lost in Lagos. So there are a lot of things that people are not seeing. They are looking at the end result. They are not interrogating it. So the bottom line is that, to the gentleman, we don't rig elections. And, well, if it takes 20 years for a lie to fly, one day the truth will catch up with it. By the time Nigerians realize what happened in 2023, they will ask for God's forgiveness. I won't say more than that.
Okay, now, Mr. Oyekanmi, he also talked about, bringing independent monitors during elections. Is it something that INEC would be open to?
Well, we have to look at our laws. The law does not talk about independent monitors. The law talks about election observers. And election observers are independent monitors. We have local observation groups.
But they only monitor. They only monitor. They don't present results. That's talking about the observers.
That's what I'm saying. What result are they going to present? Where is the provision of the law that independent monitors should present results? Everything is based on law. There is no provision for independent monitors in our laws. We are conducting an election and we accredit those who, monitor our election, who observe our election. They are not even supposed to interfere. The gentleman talked about the United States. When we were in the United States, the first election that brought Donald Trump, I was part of the team that observed that election. We didn't have the liberty to go to any polling unit that we wanted. There was a program drawn up, and there were places where we were told to go, and that's how it is. Go to any European country, any European Union country where they are conducting election. You don't have the freedom to go anywhere you like. They structure your movement. In Nigeria, we don't structure your movement. We give you the liberty to move around. So observing the election, we don't disturb international observers, we don't disturb local observers. But when you say they want to present results, what result? You are not the one conducting the election, for God's sake. INEC is the one conducting the election. We are the ones with the process. We are the ones that have the register of voters. We are the ones that have the polling units. We design the ballot papers. People come and thumbprint on those ballot papers. We have the ballot boxes. So which result exactly are you going to present?
All right, let's hear from Dr. Michael Piper. Dr. Michael Piper.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you so very much for giving me the chance to respond to this public relations person. You see, everything this man is saying, they think that Nigerians are stupid. Nigerians are not stupid. So you're telling us that you have observers. So we are free to come and observe. So what is the difference? You asked me to come to the polling units and I observe. And a result was announced in the polling units. And I observed the result that was announced in the polling units. And what we are saying now about independent monitors. If I observe that in the polling units, let's say candidate A got 100 votes, candidate B got 50 votes, candidate C got 20 votes. I have observed this in the polling units. I should be able to project what I have observed to a portal so that while people are watching, people should be able to say, yes, this is exactly what happened in this polling unit, real time, not waiting. In fact, what we are saying is that this idea of collation, there should be no collation. This is where INEC always play the trick on us. Look at Ghana, our backyard neighbor. They just conducted an election and we can see what they have done. Why should INEC be making a mockery of the most populous African nation? This man is just coming on television saying the same thing. We got all of this thing the last time. They did this in 2023. You are not going to repeat this thing in 2027. Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi, I need you to go and tell your principal Go and tell your principal, the INEC, that we will not accept it again. If you guys try to repeat this same thing in 2027, be ready for it. Nigerians will not accept it. So what we are telling you now is that you're not going to say that someone is observing an election. You are observing an election and you cannot say what you have observed. What we are saying is very simple. If you ask me to come to a polling unit to observe, and then what I have observed, I have written it down, I should be able to say in real time. I should be able to post it on my own portal. Now, this is what we are asking for. We are saying that we want independent observers. And we can have the Christian Association of Nigeria as an independent observer. If the Christian Association of Nigeria is an independent observer, they have enough members. They can even post up to 3 or 5 members in every unit, in every polling unit nationwide. If we also have the Muslim Association as an observer, they have enough members to post to all units. If we have the Nigerian Bar Association, if we have the Nigerian Medical Association, if we have the Nigerian Union of Teachers, we want all these observers to be given the rights to post exactly what they have seen in the polling units, real time, so that the television stations can project. We completely reject what Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi is telling us right now. He's telling us that, oh, INEC, you have the voters list, you are the ones conducting it. Yes, you are the ones conducting the election. We agree. But we also want to be able to compare your results with the results of all those who observe the election. This is where you are playing your wayo. This is where you are doing your ojoro. No, you just go make some kind of polls to see if Nigerians really trust INEC. I need you to just ask the question across all Nigerians and ask them, make a public poll to find out what is the percentage of Nigerians that trust INEC. Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi, people are watching you right now, and I'm sure even your own biological children watching you right now, they know you are not speaking the truth. They know you're just saying something that you've been asked to say. And we are saying that in 2027, we will not accept this.
Can you hear me, Dr. Michael Piper? I'm here. He's actually heard of your recommendations, and he would take that into consideration. Mr. Rotimi, if you can hear me now, can you tell us how? Yes,
I just want to quickly respond. It's like the gentleman did not understand what I was trying to say. Of course, observation groups have their situation rooms. Even the media have their situation rooms. If you check, even the off-season governorship elections that we conducted, the media was posting results of polling units and publishing them. But it is a matter of law that the final results can only be announced by INEC. That's what I'm saying. Nobody is saying you should not post the results you are gathering in your situation rooms. You can do that. You can make your projection. You can post those ones in your situation room. We are not against that. But we are saying when it comes to announcing the final results of any election, either it is a by-election, either it's a governorship election or presidential election, right? INEC is the only authority that can declare the final tally of all elections. And let me also say this to the gentleman. There is no independent monitor that has the capacity to monitor a presidential election in this country. We have 36 states of the federation. We have 774 local governments. It's easy to come on TV to say all these things. Even the political parties that we ask to produce agents for each of the polling units, we have 176,846 polling units across the country. They cannot have enough manpower to cover all these polling units. There are no observers, either international or local, that can cover the entire polling units in this country. And for you to even have a full picture of what really happened, you must be able to cover the entire country. So when you hear people talk about the general election, rather than talk about the area where they covered, they will talk as if they covered everywhere. And that's the point we are making, that no, don't make assumptions. Talk about what you saw in your little space. Don't talk about the idea that you cover the entire country and you have the full picture of what happened. You don't have the capacity to do that. So we are not saying observer groups cannot monitor or post. They do that. I mean, if you check, all like media organizations have their situation rooms. Local observers have their situation room. They post results. Nobody is saying they should not post, but the law says only INEC can announce the final tally of results, and that's the point I'm making. So nobody is restricting you. In any case, like I said, we invented IREF to allow Nigerians have access. And that's why the conversation is this hot. If we didn't invent the law did not require us to invent IREF. We invented IREF because we wanted to engender transparency. And that has been achieved. In Nigeria cannot even see the beauty of the IREF. They are looking at the consequences of IREF. They should be praising us for even inventing IREF in the first place.
So many Nigerians don't believe that, INEC is as transparent as you actually say. So how do you intend to address concerns that these reforms might not adequately tackle the systemic issue of election rigging and also violence that have plagued Nigeria's elections? We're about to wrap up, by the way.
I think that the trust issue is not just with INEC. I think Nigerians are very suspicious of every public institution in this country, if you watch. I don't know what we can do in this country to remove that. Talk about any public institution or public government official or anything like that. Whenever they say something, Nigerians don't believe. But we will continue to do what we have to do. We take our responsibility very seriously. And for those who pay attention, not those who listen to what social media say. Sometimes when I get into conversation with people and they say we read the 20th general election, and I ask them how, they can't prove what they have said. And don't forget, those who were aggrieved, those who participated in the election, went to court, they couldn't provide the evidence to prove their case. So Nigeria just believed that, some said the election was rigged because somebody did not win. But in any case, we will continue to be transparent. We will continue to involve stakeholders. We will continue to do what we have to do. And hopefully, when people take enough interest to look objectively at all the things we have done, then they will be able to appreciate our achievement in spite of all the challenges that we have been facing.
All right, Mr. Oyekanmi, let's hear from Dr. Michael Piper. Let's have your final thoughts. We're about to wrap up.
There's a glitch.
Hello, doctor. Can you hear me?
All right. Thank you very, very much for giving me this opportunity. Well, we've listened to INEC. We've listened to INEC. INEC will always say what they have always said. This is what they have always said. And what we are saying in Nigeria now is that for 2027, please, I want to beg you, News Central, to please keep this recording. Keep this recording so that by 2027 we can play back what Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi just said now, so that when your TV station begin to project the results from the different polling units real time, he will not say you didn't have the right to do that. What we are saying now is we want to project. We agree, INEC is the only authorized body to announce the results. But we want every observer, all the monitors to be able to project it. We want your TV station to be able to project the results from every unit. We want all radio stations to be able to project it while we all wait for INEC. And we're already engaging the National Assembly. Right now, as I speak, there's a bill in the House of Representatives. It is a bill by a member, Honorable Ben Etena Bene. The bill is already on the second reading, and that bill is supposed to give the right for independent monitors to be able to project these figures. And when he says that there are not enough people to go around all these polling units, it's a lie.
Okay.
It's a lie. There are churches. If you allow the Christian Association to be thank you very much.
Well, sorry to cut you short, but we've actually run out of time. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking time to speak to us and also enlighten us, on this particular topic. Thank you, Dr. Peter Michael Piper, Public Affairs Analyst, for joining us, and also Rotimi Oyekanmi, Chief Press Secretary to INEC Chairman. We appreciate you for your time. And with that, we've come to the end of the conversation. Thank you so much for staying tuned. I'm Darshan Usman. Until next time.